Hey, everybody, welcome back to another edition of the Rising Tide Leadership Podcast, where we simplify the complexities of your leadership journey. I'm your host, Mo, and today we're joined by one of the premier thought leaders in consulting, Mr. David A. Fields. He's the co-founder of the Ascendant Consortium, a sought-after keynote speaker. His frameworks like right-side-up thinking, the context target offer model, and the 6 steps to winning clients have helped thousands of leaders build thriving, client-centric practices. We're in for a masterclass of leadership today. David, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
Yes, sir. Why don't you tell my audience a little bit about you and how you got to where you are today?
Oh gosh, that'll be the least exciting part. You don't want to hear about my years of misspent youth. I spent a decade in corporate, went over into consulting, grew to become a partner in a small firm. One of the other partners and I spun off and founded a firm. That's back 20 years ago. And been a couple iterations, sort of fell into, as a lot of consultants do, followed the market into what we've been doing for the past 10, 12 years, which is working exclusively with small consulting firms. So my practice is, that's all we do. We're really narrow. We just work with small consulting firms and help them grow. But there've been a couple shifts along the way, just following the market. Where the market says, go here, we're like, okay, got it. We'll go there. That's it. That's my short version. I left out, kids, cats, all that, but
No, it's good. That's very, very concise. I love it. David, you've shared a lot of times that, your first year in consulting was miserable. So how did those struggles shape your leadership philosophy today?
oh, wow. Oh yeah, first year was a disaster. So a little bit of background. I co-founded this consulting firm, Ascendant Consulting, which is, we don't go by that now. And the idea was, it's 2 of us, 2 partners. We'd both been partners in another firm. He was the sales guy, the relationship guy, the human person-to-person interaction. I'm a backroom engine person. I develop models. I'm basically a quant geek. And so keep me hidden, doing really cool stuff in the back, let him win business. So that worked really well for about 4 weeks. And after about that period of time, my partner decided, maybe this wasn't what he wanted to do. And so he moved on, which is a fine decision, but it left me without any skills for winning business, having a business and having bills to pay. And so that year was pretty terrifying. I made some good decisions along the way, had some good luck along the way. And before you know it, you've got yourself a successful firm. 20 years later, that experience though was scarring, to be completely candid about it. To face staring down the barrel of bankruptcy, wondering, oh my gosh, am I going to have to sell my house in order to feed my children? That's a scary place to be. And because of that, I have tremendous empathy for entrepreneurs who are hitting a struggle, hitting a trough, really trying to figure out how to get their business going, wondering, is this going to work? Because I've been there. And also, the books I've authored, especially the second one, have not been from the perspective of, oh yeah, I mean, this is all easy. You should all be able to do it. It's like, yeah, how do you actually learn to grow a business? Are you able to win clients if it's not what you naturally do? And so it shaped a lot of my thinking, the hardship, unfortunately. And I'm not a believer that everybody should go through pain because that's what makes you stronger. No, but you do learn from those experiences. And those learning moments have definitely shaped a lot of how we go to market as a firm.
David, in Irresistible Consultant, you introduce right side up thinking.
Yes.
Which is the idea that consulting is about them, the client, not you. So
yes,
as a leadership principle, why do so many leaders get this backwards?
Oh, yeah, it's a fundamental idea, really easy conceptually, and as every one of our clients soon learns, really hard to implement. So why? Because we're all built what we call upside down. Upside down is why every listener is here right now, because they think they can gain something. Maybe they'll learn something during our exchange. Maybe they'll be able to have an idea that will spark a big breakthrough in their business. But it's all about them. That's how we all think. It's healthy. It's the way we are naturally wired, is to think about ourselves and what the benefit for us can be. It just happens to be upside down if you're trying to be a client-centric leader. And I think while we apply it primarily to clients, for the businesses we work with, we also counsel them to be right side up in leading their internal staff. We had this conversation with a client just Friday, I think, so just last week, about how he was going to handle a review with his personnel, someone he wants to keep long term. And I said, the place you start isn't saying, I want you here, and here's the big opportunity I have for you, and all of these things. The place you start is, what are you looking for? What would you like your career to look like? Just describe the ideal path over the next 2, 3, 5, 10 years for you, right? Start with them, not you. And then maybe there's a way you can build something where what you want to do and what they want to do, wow, it matches up. So that's all being right side up. It's really difficult in practice.
Yeah. So I don't think any of us want to be upside down. So how does the leader know when they're leading upside down and focusing too much on themselves rather
Yeah.
than those they serve?
Well, you could look at your language and you can look at what you're talking about. I would ask any reader, any listener, any viewer here to pull out the last email you wrote to a client, to a colleague. And after you say Mo, after that line, what's the first thing you wrote? What's the first word you wrote? In 80+%, maybe 90+% of the time, if you take out that email, the first word after hi Mo is I. I hope you had a great weekend. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're doing well. It's sort of about them, but really who's the subject there? So while it feels awkward, and it will feel awkward, look at your own language. Start with you. You came to mind. You were on my mind last week. You were delightful to chat with. It feels awkward, but it's flipping it right side up. So just look at your own language for this leader we were talking about, this consulting firm leader that wants to keep his person long term. It's like, who are you talking about? You're talking about what you want. So just be mindful. Maybe have someone on your team point it out, because it's really hard to recognize. It's really hard to recognize when you're in the moment.
In the 6 steps to winning clients, you emphasize that consultants should find the right market and not chase the lead. How does this principle apply to leadership beyond consulting?
Wow, an interesting idea. I have to riff on this, and we'll see where it goes. You just never know.
I
Okay, so
love it.
we're gonna see what happens. So the idea from a consulting standpoint is, I told you about our my own path, which is I followed the market rather than trying to say, gosh darn it, I'm going to do this. Now let me go find people who want this. Let me find someone that wants a, left-handed paint scraper. Maybe there's not so much demand for that. When you are trying to push into the world what you want, that is, to us, it's upside down. It's this idea of, I want to sell, left-handed paint scrapers, and gosh darn it, that's where I'm going to try and be a leader. You have to meet the world where it is. You have to meet the market where it is and speak to their listening, right? Not just say what you want to say. You have to speak to people's listening. And that's how you become a leader. You can only lead if people are actually following you, right? You being out there, marching with no one behind you, you're not a leader. You're just some fool, looking like you like to march. If you understand where people want to go, right? If everybody wants to go to the Dallas-Fort Worth area, you say, hey, look, I'm going to organize a mission to go to Dallas-Fort Worth to meet Mo. Then you'll get some people saying, yeah, that sounds awesome. What are we going to do? You say, well, here's what I was thinking. And they're like, yeah, but I'd actually rather go do a little bit of that. I'd like some fine dining. And you're like, okay, if you want to do that, we can go there. You facilitate. That allows you to be the leader because you're not trying to push your idea. You're going to where the market is. If everybody's like, I want to go to Dallas-Fort Worth, and you're saying, you know what? I think we're going to go to Puerto Rico. Folks are like, I don't want to get on a plane, right? And I didn't feel like going on an island to an island. They're like, all right, that's not much of a leader. That's just a maverick. It's not to say that maverick different ideas can't be adopted. So you have to know your market. And again, speak to their listening. And you say, look, here's my idea. Let's go to Puerto Rico, swing through Dallas-Fort Worth on the way. And I think there's some advantages. We'll get you where you want to go, plus we'll do something extra. Now people are like, wow, that's a great idea. Now you're back to leading because you're speaking to their listening.
I'd love to talk about one of the steps that you have in your book. It's called Build Trust. We
Yes.
talk a lot about trust on this podcast. And in your trust building framework, you talk about traits like reliability, safety, warmth. What leadership behaviors undermine trust without leaders even realizing it?
Well, if you're not listening, then it's hard to be trusted. Can I break the trust down? We have a model for trust, which might not be super common. We
Absolutely.
put trust, we depict trust as a triangle. In the center of the triangle is the other person. The other person is thinking me, 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 me. So from their standpoint, here's what they want to know. Are you putting my interests first? So are you thinking of me? That's one point. Another point, are you going to help me? And the third point is, are you going to harm me? And if I trust you to help me, not harm me, and I trust you to put my interests first, and then we've got something there. Where it breaks down from a leadership standpoint is if in any one of those you make it appear like I'm not thinking about you, I'm thinking about me. Oh, I don't know if I trust you then because you don't have my best interests at heart. Or I think you might put me in harm's way with where you are headed. As a leader, if you are with one of your followers, be that inside your company or outside the company, and you disparage someone else, what's going through the mind of the follower you're talking to is, I wonder when he's going to disparage me,
Yes,
right? The way you treat
absolutely.
others that are not in the room is how people are going to think, oh, that's how they're going to treat me when I'm not in the room. And that breaks trust.
So, David, do you have a practical trust building move that's a favorite of yours that my leaders can use today?
So I'll give you a technique, and it's a technique, not meant to be manipulative and not meant to in any way pull away from the basics. Be trustworthy, right? Have integrity. Make sure you are focused on the other person. But here's a technique that we teach because it helps build trust quickly. It's what we call loop back. And a loop back is when in conversation or you're in a situation where someone asks you for something or brings up a topic, you say, you know what, let me get back to that. You had a question, let me pin that for a moment, finish this other pieces. And then you just get back to it. This is the stupidest little thing, but it turns out if you make small commitments and live up to them, that builds trust, especially so in our world, the world of consulting, where trust can be quite low. And a prospect doesn't know they can't give you the big trust because they haven't worked with you yet. So if they're betting $100,000 or $200,000 on you, that's a big bet, right? It's a big trust bet, but there's no way to know for sure. So what do they base trust on? They base their trust on the little things. Have you been trustworthy in little commitments? So as a leader, you can put yourself in a situation where you get to live up to small commitments, and loopbacks is one of those. Let me just, you know what? I'll send you something at the end here. And then you send it. You live up to your small commitments and you loop back to them. Yep. I told you I was going to do this. Now I'm going to live up to my promise.
I'd love to talk about consulting principles as universal leadership tools. In your book, you emphasize that, quote, consulting is bought, not sold, close
Right.
quote. I love that. How does that imply leadership presence and patience?
Yeah, well, that's an interesting one. Let's sort out whether it's exactly parallel or not. So in consulting, you're closing a gap. You're either solving a problem or you're helping someone achieve an aspiration. And by and large, most consulting is actually bought to solve a problem because that's when there's an urgent need. You've been ticking along like this, all of a sudden something breaks, you're down there and like, uh-oh, how do we get back? So if that's why most consulting is bought, you can't sell it because if the problem doesn't exist, if there's not a need or if there's not a want, there's nothing there. So, and you're not supposed to create problems. I mean, you often do, but it's not the objective of a consultant to create problems. So now sometimes there's an aspiration, but again, aspirations are tricky. Aspiration, there has to be desire. There has to be a perceived gap. Wow, I only have 1,000 YouTube followers and I want 1 million. Okay. So someone might be able to teach you how to do that. And if that's the case, if someone has that desire, they will buy assistance. To go out and try and sell it, you're either pushing against a problem that doesn't exist, or you're trying to create desire that may not exist. And where that becomes problematic, you can do that for small things. You can do that for toothpaste. You can do that for, things that get advertised. But to do that for something that's $100 or $200 or $500,000, people will step back and say, do I really want that? Or even $20,000 or $50,000. And so trying to manufacture desire, trying to manufacture aspiration, I think is futile. And I don't think it's particularly helpful. So for those reasons, consulting is bought. So let's talk about leadership. I don't think you can be a leader effectively or long-term by trying to shove your leadership down people's throats. Because fundamentally, you need to know where they're trying to go, what they're trying to do, and so that they embrace you as a leader. If you want a fairly positive culture, and whether you like politicians or hate politicians, the best politicians and best political consultants will tell you, politicians tap into desires that are already there. So the folks that get into office they have their range of beliefs But the ones that they will talk about most, the ones that will come out in an election season, are the ones that tap into the psyche, the desires of the voters. So again, whether you want to use, politics, or you like politicians or not, they're an interesting model for leaders. And that same idea, it's a right side up model. It's not to what do I want to do as the politician, not what I want to do as a leader in any sense, but what do the people who could potentially follow me want to see? And how do I connect that to what I'm trying to do with my business as a politician or whatever? So not just swing with the wind, or you see, plenty of that, but how do I connect what they want with where I'm going? And if we can do that, which is fundamentally right side up, then I think they buy into you and the idea of being bought as opposed to trying to sell it makes sense.
That's great. I'd love to talk about a couple of practical techniques from your book, since we were on techniques a little bit. The context discussion, that your
Yes.
book's signature technique. Take my audience through that and how it helps to uncover clients' true motivations. How can leaders use this same discussion structure with their teams?
Got it. These are great questions. Certainly, they're not ones I typically get asked. I
Awesome.
appreciate the depth and where you're taking them. There are a few parts of that discussion. That discussion is designed, again, within a consulting context, to help you understand where a prospective client is trying to go. And it's long before you put together a proposal. It's the basics. It's the six pieces are the situation, the desired outcomes, indicators of success, risks and concerns, value. So like why bother doing it, and parameters. So those are the six pieces. And in terms of leadership, the vast majority of them, but maybe not all of them, would apply. Situation, interestingly, is all about why now and why get some help. Those are the really core questions. And that absolutely applies, because as a leader, you're fighting the exact same things that consultants are fighting, which is primarily inertia. Right? That is every consulting firm's number one competition. Is a client could say, I don't know, maybe I won't do anything. Things are okay. That's the biggest competition. And as a leader internally, certainly you're fighting that. And externally, if you're outside your organization, the hard thing is to get people motivated to do something,
Yeah.
right? Let's get on the plane and go to Dallas, Fort Worth. Like, I don't know, the couch is kind of comfy. So,
It always is.
right. Inertia is what we're fighting. Having the conversation of saying, why would you want to go to Dallas, Fort Worth now? As opposed, you could have gone there last year, you could go next year, next month. And if you can get people you don't sell them on why to go now. You want them to tell you, well, actually, this would be a really great time to go because it's getting cold in the Northeast. And I know Mo's there now. I want to get a chance to see him.
That's right.
Right. So you're like, okay, those are really good reasons. Again, so as a leader, you don't try and push it on them. You understand them. The context helps you understand. Well, okay, got it. Why now? Well, why haven't you just done this yourself? And they'll give you reasons why they haven't done it themselves. Perfect. What are you looking for? What's the outcome? Here's a way we could go. Why would that be better? And let them describe it. Perfect. Okay. Now I'm going to skip to the section, which is probably the real magic. And one of the few things in your career, if you're fortunate, you get to add a few pieces of IP that have some breakthrough to them. One of them that I was fortunate enough to realize is that when you're talking with prospects, you're talking with followers, understanding what they're worried about makes all the difference in the world. Most consultants don't do this, and most people don't do this in conversation. Just say, what are you afraid of?
Man, that's a great question, David.
Yeah. What are you afraid of? And, what could go wrong? And when people tell you what they're afraid of and what could go wrong, what the risks are, and you really push people, you say, look, you have an opportunity to join my tribe. If I'm in some way, I'm a leader, but tell me what concerns you would have about doing that. Right now, that takes some because you're asking people to tell you why they might not want to follow you. That's the most valuable feedback you could possibly get. Well, I might not want to follow you because you seem to always be going where Mo is. I don't like Mo. Okay. I'm glad I have that feedback. Now, at least I can react to it. I can do something about it. I can agree or disagree or say, all right, if I want you to be in my tribe, if I want you to follow me, I'm going to have to address this concern. Surfacing those concerns. Those concerns exist no matter what. Those fears exist no matter what. The difference is, do you know about it as a leader? If you don't know about it as a leader, you're at the mercy of them. You're just reacting. But if you proactively find out about them, then you're in a position to truly lead and really help out the folks that are following you.
So, how do you know when it's time to ask that question, David? Because, like I said, fantastic question, but that sounds to me like that's part of the build trust portion of a relationship. When do you know
Yeah.
it's the right time?
I have a couple of answers to that. One is you're partly right that you can't just, dive in, the waiter shows up at your table while you're with your spouse and you're like, hey, dude, what are you afraid of? Right? Yeah, that's probably not going to hunt. You can ask almost anything. In first conversations, I am able to get extraordinary amount of information from folks in very intimate details that they probably have not shared with anyone other than their spouse and maybe their accountant. And it's partly because I'm like, look, I got the list here. Here's my list of questions. And this question says, how often do you go, oh, okay, well, I would normally answer that, but it's on the list. I guess this is normal. So, when you normalize something like asking what your fear is, people are more apt to answer it, even because they trust that you have a process. Okay. So I push back a little bit. Now, all that said, you still can't ask the waiter that when he shows up at your table. And you have to decide when you should answer it. And when you should answer it is when knowing that is important. Let me go back to, because just the example is somewhat fresh. The person who wanted to keep an employee and was talking about, how do I run this personnel conversation? And we gave him some advice, but there was a piece he was resistant to. That's a really good time. Someone's resistant to say, okay, I hear you're resistant. What are you worried about? What's your fear? I'll give you another example. My children are grown because I'm old. So I have, but I was having a conversation with my son and we talk like this. He's got his house north of me. And we were having a really candid conversation where he was sharing how certain conversations are difficult to have. Well, as a dad, I'm like, wow, that with me, the two of us. I'm like, first of all, thank you for being willing to share that with me. But then I asked him, what are you afraid of? Right? Now that's with me and my son. Again, doesn't get any more personal than that.
Right.
And it opened up just, a whole nother layer, a whole nother level between me and my son. You think, well, how could I get deeper and better, closer with my own kids? Hopefully we've done a good job over, 30 plus years. But that opened up another layer, right? Because he's his own person. So I need to use it in business and outside. Now, did I answer your question?
Yeah, you did. Man, I love it. I'm getting the good stuff here. David, you've coached hundreds of consultants. What's a leadership mistake that comes up over and over again that you would eliminate if you could?
The leadership, yeah, we've built hundreds of consulting firms as a team, not just me. The mistake that I think we see commonly, that's a leadership mistake, is holding on. To make progress, you actually have to let go. And that's hard to do. It's scary to do. You have to let go of your self-definition sometimes. I've always been this. Well, yeah, you've always been this. This is what you'll always be. If you want to grow to something more, you're going to have to let go of some of the definition of what you've always been in the past. I've always done these things myself. Yeah, okay, but it's time to delegate that. I've always done it this way. Yeah, I know that, but it's time to let go. Letting go is I think the huge secret, if you will, a huge factor in becoming a leader is not trying to grab hold of more, is trying to let go of more. And then you can become, even more singularly focused on what you do best. If you focus on what you do best and you listen to what other people want and you find where that intersects, man, that's where you see people just do extraordinary things.
I love it. David, where can my audience connect with you, find your books and other things that you're working on?
DavidAFields.com. For better or worse, the company's named after me. So David A like Apple, Fields.com. Books are on Amazon or wherever your favorite bookseller is. You're supposed to say that kind of thing.
That's right.
Yeah. So that's where I would go. Our stuff's pretty prevalent. We've been publishing for a long time. So it's all out.
Well, David, tons of wisdom, practical, love the powerful strategies. Your books are incredible. And so for my listeners, make sure to pick up one or more of David's books, reach out to him. If you liked this episode, please share it with somebody else, subscribe, and don't forget to get our free newsletter every month and give you the good stuff. So David, hope to have you on again. Best of luck. And thanks for doing what you do.
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks for having me. It was fun.
Yes, sir.